Here's another tip. Make sure that your students remain engaged. It is so much easier on face-to-face class to know if your students are engaging. You can tell if somebody fell asleep on their desk or if they're not talking to their groups or participating in class. However, on online, it becomes so important to know if the students are engaging with the material. Imagine if they're in a Zoom meeting and they can just turn off their camera, they could be sleeping and you wouldn't know. So you want to make sure that we keep them engaged. So how do we capture their attention and inspire them to participate? So we want to make sure that they want to participate. There are a lot of things that can help us with that because enjoyment affects engagement. There is visual appeal that can engage students, content appeal that can engage students, social appeal that can engage students, and even emotional appeal that can engage students. So let's break those down. When I talk about visual appeal, I talk about having a pretty classroom. Isn't it so much nicer when you're in a beautiful building with light and color versus a drab, dark building? Well, the same thing goes for our site organization. So whatever learning management system you have, it would be wonderful if you can include maybe some media, maybe some pictures, even on your site. And of course, visuals and media throughout handouts and any instructions, anything like that. You know, nowadays our students are so visual. So it is important to not just give them a bunch of written things. When we give handouts and directions, make sure that they are nicely organized. We had talked about this a little earlier, but a little bit more on this. Headings, subheadings, maybe pictures, and super important, white space. A lot of times we cram everything together and it is just so hard on the brain. Whereas if we just block things out, give a little white space for the eyes to take a break, it is so much more appealing. So I believe that this affects student engagement. Talking about content appeal. So your content should be nicely organized in your site, and your content should include visuals and media and not just written things. And interactive tools become incredibly important on online teaching. You need to find tools where students can interact with readings or interact with videos or interact with lectures. I will show you a couple wonderful tools on the tools section of the workshop, things like Flipgrid, which you may have already experienced, Edpuzzle that pauses video and makes students answer things along the way, or Nearpod that also asks questions and makes students actually flip through the lesson. So all these things allow the student to not just play a video and fall asleep, but actually have to be engaged. There's also tools that you can use to engage your students via Zoom, and I will be showing those as well on the technology side. But you want to make sure that you have all these tools to make sure the students are engaging with the content. Now let's talk about engaging through social appeal. Humans are such little social beings and learning is incredibly social. You know, a lot of the students, they love coming to class because of the interpersonal relationships they form between them or with you. And they love group sharing and doing things where they are being social. One of the things that I really like to think about is converting some of the projects that students do, some of the output to public products. It's one thing if a student just gives me an assignment and I'm the end, whereas if the student knows that his or her peers are looking at it, or that it's even going to go on a web page and the whole world is going to look at it, they're going to become a lot more engaged. There's all this theory about disposable assignments, you know, the ones that students spend a lot of time doing. They give it to the professor, that you get a grade and throw it away, versus a public product. So I would encourage you to explore some of the things that you can do so your students engage in a social way beyond the classroom. Finally, let's talk about emotional appeal. Again, students love feeling good and being happy in class, and they become better learners, and they want to know that you care. I think if the students know that you care, then they care because they want to make you proud. So you want to build those strong interpersonal relationships between you and your students, and even between the students. You want to be checking in with your students, asking them how they're doing, if there's anything you can do to help them so they feel that you care. You also want to help them build their confidence. So give them a pat in the back, a virtual pat in the back every time you can, because then they know that you care and they're going to want to make you proud. You want to make sure that you're reducing their anxiety, letting them know that a lot of these things can be challenging, but you are there for them and you're rooting for them, and that way they will want to engage. And then maybe provide some reflection activities. So I like after every project to have my students write about how they went through the project, how did it go, what was hard, what was easy, what did they enjoy, and that way they feel that they are communicating beyond just a simple task or project. I hope some of these ideas help you keep your students engaged. And don't forget to look at the other section of the workshop with all the tools, because we're going to explore some amazing tools that are sure to engage them as they are being presented with content.